Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Welcome back to The Razor's Edge. I am very excited to be joined by the musical mastermind Peter Tagtgren ahead of the new album from Pain titled I Am, which drops on May 17th. Thank you so much for joining me, Peter. How are you doing today?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm doing better. Penicillin is gone now, so I'm getting better. I don't know. I got some flu or some shit, maybe some recycled corona. I don't know,
Oh, yeah,
but
apparently.
it's getting better every day now. So
Okay.
it's we're getting there. So
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. So
yeah,
I hope you don't mind me saying, for when I was trying to prepare for this interview, I was struggling to narrow down where to start. You have a pretty awe-inspiring career at this point. Obviously, part of the band Hypocrisy. You've got your project with Pain. You collaborated with Till Lindemann. You provided vocals for a Bloodbath album. You were in Lockup for an album. The Abyss, War. You produce as well. So I guess my first question is, do you ever find time to breathe?
yeah. Well, this is ADHD, man, on high run for 30 years. No, but I mean the later 10 years. I mean, I hardly have time to produce bands anymore. Just very rarely the last 10 years. And it's, you know, 7 albums in 10 years, I think it is, or 11 years. So I still been busy like crazy, but and it's always been like that from the beginning, I guess. Um, it started recording your own albums, and then you got a band that really gets attention, and people start coming, and all suddenly you're booked for a whole year, every year for many years, and then I just went into the wall because I didn't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, awesome. It's even just looking at albums that you've put out. I believe this is your ninth album with Pain, but you've also had, I think, 13
Yeah,
with Hypocrisy. I mean, that's just two projects, and that's 22 albums. So,
yeah,
have you
I
have
know.
you have you been able to sort of sustain it for all this time?
No, I don't. I really don't focus that much on what's behind me. I just keep on rolling, forward. Uh, I mean, for me, sometimes like it's hard to hear some albums because it sounds so bad. And but once in a while, I go back and listen to, a couple albums at the time, like for a week, and get back and then remember how I was thinking, like as the album progresses, and gets a little bit better and better. In my opinion, of course, the diehard fans only likes the two first albums,
Yeah, of course. When you go
but
back
that's
to
okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you go back and you listen to some of your old stuff on occasion,
Yeah.
does that ever inform what you do next, or is it more of just a nostalgic looking back kind of thing?
Well, now with the Pain album, when I finally got time in 21, I think, to really, okay, my manager Anna said, like, you have to release something with Pain before Hypocrisy album comes out in September or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, what the hell, So I wrote the party in my head, and it was COVID times, so I guess I hit the nerve there. And also, I did this cover with Stones, "Give Me Shelter." It was something I had for laying around, but more or less did it like the original, and it wasn't that good. So I got a little bit more pumpy. So after that, the Hypocrisy album comes out, and you're trying to find somewhere to start writing. So then I actually listened to Coming Home all the way through, and I was thinking, damn, this is a sleepy album. Holy shit. Uh, so I was like, no, no, no. This time it's going to be more industrial, more, distortion and stuff, the wall of sound kind of feeling to it. So that's how I was inspired. And then, of course, things has to come up in my head, like melodies or rhythms or whatever, you name it. And then it goes a couple of songs, and then I have to go out on tour again or do something else, So it's like on and off for 2 years, I would say. So yeah, it's a you take the time you can get. Sometimes you're so tired you don't feel like doing anything, so you just take it easy for a week after a tour for 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I'll bet. Um, so I wanted to ask about sort of the origins of the project Pain. Did you create that project because you needed an outlet to put music that wouldn't have fitted with the other projects you were doing at the time?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit like this. When you've done a few albums or something like that, you start to think that you know what you're doing. So then you want to move on. At least that's how I am. I always tend to, if I write a fast song, then the next song will definitely be a heavy song. I never try to do like two of a kind in a row and things. I don't know why, but I never do. So that was it was my goal to get a more, I don't know, awakening. You know.
Yeah, cool. Because obviously a lot of the work that you've done is quite synonymous with like the death metal scene, basically. So was doing something on the more, I guess, melodic, bit industrial side, is that something that you'd wanted to do for a while?
Uh, I don't know what the hell I mean, uh, I grew up in Florida with the Florida scene, so I got featured with everything, and it really uh, inspired me. And it was not easy to find somewhere to record anything because it was very expensive, and I didn't have that much money. So I told the guys in America, I was like, "Hey, I'm going home to to make an album. I'll see you on tour." And they were going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, right." And this was like in '91. So I borrowed my friend's studio, did demos and shit. And yeah, and then when I figure out that I can't growl, then another friend of mine said, like, "Yeah, this guy from Stockholm, his grandma lives here in around, so he's here. So and he's good growler. Okay, so bring him in." So I gave him the lyrics for one song, and he tried it. I was like, "Yes, that's so much better," you know. So it ended up. He was doing 2 albums, and then I guess he just kind of um, he went off somewhere else. I mean, like it was weird. I guess he didn't want to do it anymore or something like that. So in the end, we had to fire him, and then it was back to me, and I was like, "Holy shit! Why do I have to do this?" Because I tried it before and it didn't work. But actually, this time I took a little bit more time, and then I resang Inferior Devotees just for a pilot thing for me to hear how I sound when I growl again. And so it turned out not so bad. So we decided to do a couple of more songs, Slayer, Black Magic, and things like that. And then, boom, here we are. And then we did. I'm sorry, I'm getting long here.
No, no worries, no worries.
We did the third album, and then I felt like, okay, now I know what the hell is going on. So now I started to do like Pink Floydish kind of stuff for myself because I wanted to try to do actual, I don't know, normal songs or whatever you want to call it. And these 2 songs ended up on Abducted, as you know. I didn't really want it from the beginning. The other guys, we were all big Pink Floyd fans, so the other guy said like, "Yeah, it's fucking great. Let's do it. Let's see what happens." And a little bit trying to see to get a reaction, and oh yeah, we got reactions. But now when you look at it, I think "Slipping Away" is one of the most listened to on like Spotify or stuff like that. That's kind of strange how it goes, things. So I mean, yeah, that fed me with the idea of doing other stuff more. I wanted to do Goa trance techno music, but the stuff I was doing, the keyboards were so shitty. So I started putting on guitars on top of it, and that was the start of Pain, I would say.
Yeah, awesome stuff. You mentioned that you like grew up in Florida in like the 90s. Obviously, the death metal scene in Florida around that time was like kicking off because you had bands like Death and all that. So was like adding keyboards and stuff? Did that feel a little bit like you were, I don't want to say breaking the rules of metal, but doing something that might not have been expected, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I always been a huge fan of Black Sabbath.
Mm.
You know, the heavy, dark stuff that they did with Ozzy, they did with Dio and Tony, and you name it. You know, when they were heavy, they were really fucking heavy. It's always been a fan of that, and it's also for the sound itself, it sounds so cool when you do like very slow shit. Uh, more more metal than doom, but you know what I mean. So I always had that in me. So I always wanted to do heavy songs as well. And then all of a sudden, someone left a keyboard in this studio that I borrowed, because I mean there was really nothing in it. It was a 16 channel tape player and a shitty mixing desk, and sometimes there was effects in the rack, sometimes there was not, because he also had a sound and PA company. So sometimes he needed that shit. So I mean, the second album, there's no compression on it. There's no reverb on the album. There's no, well, maybe there's one echo or something like that. That's it. And we were like, okay, let's go Venom. So yeah. Anyhow, yeah, and always try to learn to do better stuff and cooler stuff for myself.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, there was no band with Pain, and things started to moving, and record company was like, "Hey, you have to get a band together, go out and play." And I kind of missed it, when it started to go down a little bit. Then I started to touring and things, but it never sounded good. I mean, you can't even compare it till today. So that's really good. Everything evol you know, gets better and better here.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Cool. So I have read, and this might seem a bit random, but please correct me if this is wrong, because I was fascinated that apparently you own the small town where you live.
Nah, not really.
Not really. Is that like a fake rumor kind
It's
of thing?
very simple. It's very simple if you're there, and it's kind of complicated to explain. But like, it's a super small village with like 7, 8 houses and a stable and a nice little lake outside. And they after it was a refugee place, and before that it was a mental hospital, and before that it was a poorhouse, and things like that. So it was like to this hospital there was working houses and also like normal houses that people were living in. So they redid them to apartments and stuff like that in these big halls that they had. So I saw they had an apartment that I could rent, so I rented there, and then I saw they had a cool place where I could put the studio in, because the place I had it now was like in a shelter, and every spring or when it really got really wet, it started to dripping on the walls inside of the studio. So I was a little bit in panic. So I moved my studio there, and then eventually I wanted to buy the house that I was renting, because it was a two apartment house, and so I bought that. Bought the studio, yeah, and then he said like, "Hey, buy the whole shit, so we don't we don't want it anymore." It's like probably a minus thing for them. So I took over a debt that they had to the city for water and stuff like that. I don't know what the fuck, I can't remember now. Anyhow, so I tear down many houses because they were really bad. I sold one house to my brother. My son's grandma lived there for 20 years. And yeah, so the other half is the stable and the guy who owns the stable. So I sold a few houses and things like that. So yeah, that's a long story, boring short.
Yeah, no worries. I only asked because I was wondering.
Yeah,
It sounded like quite a secluded way to do things. Does that help you write music, basically? You like away from distractions, that kind of thing.
yeah, definitely. I can't write on tour. I can get a lot of ideas that I have to, either talk in on my phone or write down or something like that. But I tried so many times to bring like a block paper, to write lyrics on tour when you lay in the bunk and going somewhere. Never happened. I can never concentrate. So I mean, basically, except 4 songs, all of the songs from '94 up till today has been written here. So that's weird.
That's awesome. It sounds like the ideal way to do things. I get easily distracted as well. It was like I wish I could just have a space that's just my own to do stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. But I worked hard for it, trust me.
Oh, I'll bet. I'll
This
bet.
this
Yeah.
place was a dump, man. And one house has 7 apartments, and I had to renovate all 7 of them. And yeah, shit costs. But
Yeah.
it's nice, and you know who lives here, and try to keep it nice and easy.
Okay, great. Cool. Let's swing back to your music. So, I
Yeah.
think you mentioned earlier that you were told to get another Pain album out before the next Hypocrisy album. But I think it was like your last Pain album, I think was in 2016.
Yeah.
Had you been wanting to get back to Pain at some point?
Yeah, I started a couple of times writing on on the next album, but unfortunately, most of those songs went to Lindemann album. That all
Right.
suddenly was so in a hurry, so I had to stop with my painting and take the ideas I had for Pain and drop it into Lindemann. But I mean, I was checking out for since 11 years. I've been releasing 2 Pain albums, 2 Hypocrisy albums, 2 Lindemann album, Jolene Turner album, and touring the shit out of myself. So yeah, it's hard. That's why it takes so long time. Because when you have 3 bands and you were touring with all 3, it takes so much energy, and you have to plan things, and there's a lot of practice and a lot of thinking and changing, and oh my god, so that steals a lot of energy, and then I don't feel like sitting and writing anything.
Mm. Yeah, cool. I can imagine that. But awesome news though. The new Pain album is nearly here. As I said at the
Oh
top,
yeah,
that comes out on May 17th. It's called I Am, and I've heard it already. Congrats with it, dude. It sounds absolutely massive.
thank you.
That's all right. The title is very striking in its simplicity. What's the story behind
Yeah,
that album title?
well, from the beginning it was, um the lyrics is about, I'm singing I am the cancer, that you know slowly pull you down, and because there's so much cancer shit going on around you, and my Sebastian's grandma died a year ago or something, and it influenced me to write about it. And my mom had cancer, but she beat it. That was like when we were making the first Lindemann album, and that was very stressful. And yeah, so my grandma died in cancer, so it means a lot. But then I was talking to Anna, my manager, and she was like, "Why don't you call the whole album I Am? It's about you. It's you created it, and that's how you are." So I started thinking, yeah, because you're always a little different a year after year in the thinking. I mean, unless you play a little bit like more same like AC/DC, for example. I always, I don't know what my style is, so I'm still trying to find it somehow. That's why every album represent two years of really scratching your head and trying to come up with something. So every album becomes a little bit different from each other, I think. So yeah, it's still just like detective work, trying to find out, what is the ultimate kind of. No, but it's just it's really, for me, it's a huge pleasure. It's almost as good as sex, but to create a song, and see how it develops from the melody you have in your head to put in drums or loops or sweep keyboards or whatever, you name it, and you see how it grows, and you're like, wow, it's like being a gardener and putting down seeds and see how it grows up. That's the biggest pleasure for me, especially if I'm really happy with the song. Sometimes it can be like, oh fuck, there's something wrong with it, but I can't figure it out. Is it the melody on the vocals? Is it the way I sing and think? So sometimes it takes forever with one song, and sometimes it goes super fast with one song.
Yeah, great. So with the new album, what can you said each album to you feels a little bit different. What can fans expect from this one? What sets it apart from previous Pain albums specifically?
Uh, as an Englishman would say, it's more jolly, I would say.
Sure.
No, but it's more awake. I think
Mm,
it's more modern, and uh, yeah, it's more good grooves. Like AC/DC. And yeah, and I think there's some good catchy shit in there, and uh, there's a lot of different styles of songs. I would say, like My Angel is more like the '90s Euro metal kind of shit, and of course, Go with the Flow. It's like first you're waiting to hear Depeche Mode in the beginning. It's so naked with this these old keyboards and drum machines, and it was kind of tricky to come up with an how the fuck do you sing to this shit? And I couldn't figure out an intro, because how do you go from like really big to nothing, with only drums and bass and vocals? So I decided just start with the vocals on the song. And a lot of people are writing in comments like, "There's no intro on this song." And it's like, yeah, why do we do intros? Sometimes it's really cool. I mean, I love intros with Hypocrisy and some Pain songs when you get a really good feeling to it. But yeah, this one I just wanted like right in the face.
no, nice. That's
So,
awesome.
so I mean, everything is more up tempo, I think,
Mm.
and a little bit more party feeling to it, I would say.
Yeah, great. So I believe the track "Push the Pusher" is out already. For if people want to go
Yep.
check that one out, what can you tell us about that one? Is there a story behind that one in particular?
Yeah, maybe this is one of the childish text lyrics I wrote. I am not really, I don't know. It's more with the tongue-in-cheek thing,
Hmm.
I always heard that I always had to grow up and shit, and I don't think anybody grows up or anybody wants to grow up in their minds or heart or whatever. So I just got pissed one day because I had some arguments, so I wrote the lyrics. So there you have it. And that was actually the first one I wrote when I said I want to do more industrial. When I made up my mind in which way I should go. I mean, on Coming Home, I really wanted to go Ziggy Stardust, and I think I did for myself. It's a very experimental album. So this one, there's no long highways till anything happens in the song. I think I stripped it down as like close to each other as possible. Sometimes you can hear a riff for fucking 2 minutes and you're like, come on, get to the point. And on many of these songs, like Go with the Flow is only like 3 minutes, but it takes you there.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned a couple tracks already, but other than what's already out, are there any tracks on the album that you're really excited for people to finally get to hear?
Oh, yeah, Sebastian's other song. I mean, he wrote Revolution, but he also wrote a song that Don't Wake the Dead. Uh, for me, it sounds. I mean, he produced the sounds and he played all the instruments on that song. I only wrote the lyrics and put my melodies on there. But that one sounds more like a modern Depeche Mode song with entombed guitars,
Mm.
I would say. and it's really tricky to sing. That this is I just shot myself in the foot with this song. I should have told him to like, lower the key of the song. So it's gonna be a biatch to do live, but I won't give up.
Ah, great. Cool. So when you were writing the tracks of this album, because
Mm.
they're not simple arrangements. There's a lot of things going on in these songs, a lot of different instruments and whatnot. Do you have a preferred starting point you usually stick to when you write new music?
It could be a riff in my head or a melody in my head.
Mm,
Usually, when I have a melody in my head, then I put it, you know, put it in the computer, and then I start with the guitars, putting it together with it to see what I can do, so they don't kill each other, kind of thing, you know.
yeah.
So uh, I'm like Ingve, you know, more is more. The great sound of wall of sound, you know.
Mm,
So usually I overdo a lot of things, but um, yeah, you know, it's really hard to say, but how you do it. But I mean, you know, when I get something, then I have to document it in my computer, and then I put layers on, put a drum, like a drum machine on, just so I can write and stuff like that, you know, to keep the beat, and then you know, bass and guitars and shit, and you build this 15-second thing, play it over and over and over and over, and just fill it up with things, you know, until you like, yeah, now it sounds good. So, and then you go, oh shit, yeah, that was 17 seconds of 3.5 minutes or four, you know. So now you have to come up with other things. So you really try to figure out what comes next.
yeah, great stuff. Also, to the surprise, I'm sure of absolutely no one, the production on the album is absolutely massive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Was it?
maybe it's a little bit too much. I don't know.
Uh,
I told
Make
him
it
to
better.
cramp the shit out of it, you know. But still, it
Nice.
has to be in your face so you can feel it. But
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's a little bit more in the modern way of mixing. I think loud kick and snare vocals. I didn't want to go that far though, so I kept it pretty okay, I think.
Yeah, great. When you're approaching the role of a producer, do you
Mm.
approach that differently when it's your work as opposed to when you're working with another band?
Oh, it's so much easier to tell other people what to do, you
Oh,
know.
really?
Oh yeah, and you know when you hear something for the first time when they play something, and then it doesn't take you where you want it to go. It's like, why did this? So there I can help, I think. You know, I always come with suggestions on things lately when I do something. And that's so much easier than when I sit by myself, writing, playing, and trying to sing, and then, you know, try to produce the shit and mix it. You know, there's a lot of balls in the airs. I mean, professional people only do one thing of these things, you know. You have really great mixer guys, you have really great producers, you know, you have really great mastering guys. So, and to try to do all this shit is just stupid, but it's also therapy for me to sit and write music, you know. Keeps me calm.
Yeah, awesome. When you're being the producer for another band that have a legacy behind them already,
Mm.
would they often ask you to adhere to how they have sounded up to that point, or were you normally trusted to do your own thing?
Uh, a little bit depends, and also you have to have some common sense. You know, when we did Celtic Frost, we didn't want the guitars to sound anything else than Celtic Frost, you know, because that's their signum, their sound, you know. So you really try to keep these things. It's possessed the same thing. Maybe I was pushing a little bit for more modern sound, but we got stuck in between. But I still think it sounds good, and I'm glad they put me more to old school sound in it, but still with a lot of balls, of course. So it's so different from band to band.
Mm.
Destruction, they just wanted to sound like Destruction, you know. So most of the bands, you know, when you do these comebacks band or yeah, bands who've been around for 20 years or more, then you pretty much know how to help them, I think, because you see it how you would like to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the list of bands and albums that are credited to you or productions on the production side is staggering. So potentially cheeky question here, but I'm curious, who's been the best to work with?
Oh, that's so hard. That's like saying like which one of your kids is your favorite. That's really hard. I mean, I can tell you 99.99 it's been a pure pleasure to record all these bands, small bands, big bands, you name it. Maybe once or twice I really hated to go to work for a month. It depended, but that only happened a few times. But other than that, it's been fucking great to be part of these bands growing up, coming from nothing, and you look at them today and like, holy shit. So that's
Yeah,
really cool. I'm proud as hell.
yeah, of course, man. It's an incredible career, man. It's absolutely
Mm.
inspiring. But also looking forward to the rest of the year. You've got a number of gigs with Pain through June through October, a bit beyond that as well, I think.
Yeah.
After you finish something with one of your projects, do you ever know what comes next, or do you wait for something to inspire you?
Well, it depends. Let's say this Pain thing now, because I think we're going to go to America in September. They're working on it at least. So let's see how that goes. One of these days we're going there. Well, the album is fresh. So then we want to go back to Europe and, of course, play new songs for everybody and a new stage show that's going to be really cool, I think. We're probably going to bring too much, won't fit it on this stage. So, I mean, we will just, we're going to have really cool show and really fun with people. So I think it's going to be a cool year.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's all great, man. I could ask you stuff all day, but that's all I've got for now, I'm afraid. So
That's cool, man.
thank you so much, dude, for taking the time this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, it was a great talking to you.
No,
Thank you very much. And
no worries.
don't forget to listen to the album.
Yeah, I'll get it
You
out there
you
again.
might like it.
Yeah, I'll reiterate for the people at home. Payne's new album, I Am. It drops on May 17th. So get that date in your heads now and get excited. I've been Chris
Yeah.
from Razor's Edge. Thanks again, Peter. Thank you all for tuning in,
Thank
and we'll
you.
see you in the next video.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with all of our interviews by subscribing to our channel. For all the latest news, reviews, interviews, and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.